And welcome into another episode of Turn the Corner, a Detroit Tigers podcast. I'm Kieran Steckley. With me, as always, a man who always carries the deep wall. He is Cody Stavenhagen. How you doing?
Hey, doing good, Kieran. It's been a long road, but as of the time we're recording this, the Twins have not yet played their second game. The Detroit Tigers are in the playoffs.
In the playoffs. Not a typo, not a misread. In the playoffs. Uh, Wild. Just absolutely
It's just
wild.
unreal. It's just
I
unreal. I mean, I say it's unreal, but it's also like as we said last week, it feels real and now it's believable. It's like, no,
mm,
this team just doesn't lose is kind of what it feels like.
there's I was actually going through this. I was in the car driving today for almost 4 hours, and so I'm kind of churning in my head about like how to really describe it. And obviously, we try not to be repetitive here, but
It's
the
hard.
product is repetitive because like they're doing things the same way, and my takes are the same in terms of like the culture thing Saturday, which obviously we'll talk a lot about, and having great defense, this pitching, like, and not having any, I'll repeat the line from earlier this week, Herculean effort to be had. Like, it's a team. This is a team that is making a push to the postseason. There's no video game cover guy on this team right now. You know what I mean? You're not really going to get a lot of Sports Illustrated covers right now, just from the stars themselves. Obviously Skubal is a star, but again, as we say, pitching, and he pitched once this week, and the Tigers went. And he wasn't even his classic school self. You know what I mean? So like kind of add that into the column of in their favor.
I want to see Scooble on the cover of MLB The Show for the record. Scott Boyers, make it happen.
Be dope. Be dope. Uh and I include Friday's game in that, Cody, because look, if we go back to the week just for a second, there was a lot of good buzz about the Tigers, leading national publications. They're a hot team. People are starting to kind of catch on a little bit. And then you got a road week. You got three in Kansas City and you got three in Baltimore. And it was a sink or swim moment to where like, is this pub for real? You know what I mean? And it is. Like there's no other way to describe it based on what we've just seen. And Friday is actually, in a weird way, like an example of this being for real and believable because the game starts out with a fly ball drop. Like that was something we were seeing 3 months ago. You know what I mean? Literally, like the exact same spot on the field. Meadows, it was Perez the first time, but Meadows and Carpenter there. And then you get the game from hell in a way, and nothing goes right, and they bounce back with two in a row. You know what I mean? Like like no flukiness here, I guess is the best way to phrase it. And the way I'll ask you this question is I was listening to a New York baseball podcast, and the question was posed like, do you think the Mets, they're talking about the Mets, like, do you think the Mets are for real? And the guy was like, or gonna make the postseason. The guy was like, yeah, they got that look. They got that look is kind of is how he phrased it. So I ask you, the Tigers, as of now, in the playoffs, like, do they got that look?
I mean, they're the best team in the American League since the start of July. So, yeah, it's as much as it still feels new and strange to wrap your head around, it's in a way not new. They have played good baseball for an extended period of time and are arguably playing their best right now, entering this road trip to go 5-1, pretty remarkable. I think you go into that and you're like, all right, if they can go 4-2, maybe 3-3, and continue to get some help from the Twins, we're gonna feel good going to the last homestand. Instead, the Tigers go 5-1. The Royals are working on a Twins-like implosion of their own. And then, yeah, after that Friday loss in Baltimore, look, I bet some of you the thought crept in your mind like, okay, is this where it ends? Especially you get to the ninth Saturday, you should have had that game in hand. Then all of a sudden it looks like the Orioles are going to win. It's like, okay, is this where the dream dies? No, this dream does not die, and we're now heading into a homestand. Let's not overlook, if you want to think about whether this is a team of destiny, uh, the definitive series of their season will be against the worst team of all time in the Chicago White Sox. I mean, you couldn't plan that any better. So you better not blow it. But if there were a team you want to play to win 2 or 3 games at the 2024 Chicago White Sox, the Tigers, you just can't deny it. They very much have that look. And now it's interesting to think we've spent all this time. Can they get there? Is this real? Can they do it? Now it's like, wait, okay, if they get in the playoffs, could they win in the playoffs? And you could make an argument. It's not unfathomable at this point, given the way they've played for the better part of 2 months, even longer than that.
Yeah, because the way that question is, and you just kind of assume like a team X has a late surge. They have a couple nice pieces, but when they get against the big boys, like it's gonna be, it's gonna, clock is gonna strike midnight, right? Uh, but they've played the big boys, a lot of them
The
in this
Orioles,
stretch.
I consider as among the big boys. That's a good baseball team. That's not playing very good right now, but that's a good baseball team.
And part of this run also includes that Yankee series. You know what I mean? Like the team is unafraid, and I actually do believe that they are confident in their ability to win games and win games in multiple ways. With the team of destiny stuff, uh, there's there's this moment when Bo Brisky's on the mound, and I'm in Stillwater watching the Cowboys not have an offense. So I'm out on watching the Oklahoma State Cowboys. I'm only watching the baseball game now, and I'm like, this could be a moment. You ever think like this could be a moment that kind of defines like a guy's career, a team's season, or something you look back on and be like, that's where like it all changed or something. With two runners on and nobody out, and the runners are on second and third, and no outs. Like I said, in the bottom of the ninth in a tie game. Like the I should have looked up what the percentage of win was for Baltimore, but it had to be pretty high.
It was like 99, I
Yeah,
think.
had to be pretty high. You get the weak ground ball. You get an amazing play from Trey Sweeney,
Amazing.
and then get the final out on a fly ball to the outfield. So like I'm not the only one to make this comparison, Cody. I'm sure you saw it too. But it just immediately brought me to Max Scherzer in 2013.
Mhm.
Bases loaded, nobody out, nobody out, and and he gets out of it, saves the season. That was actually obviously in the playoffs. They were on the brink of elimination, a little bit different, but in terms of like, could this be his Scherzer moment? I thought that at the time. And Bo Brisky had his Scherzer moment. It was remarkable. It was
Bo
absolutely
Brisky.
remarkable.
I think it was the start of August where I was like, yeah, I remember that prediction that Bo Brisky was going to end up as the closer. That was a terrible prediction. Look who is pitching the ninth inning in the playoff race, getting huge outs, looking like a power reliever. Suddenly it looks like a great prediction. Yeah, Bo's really stepped up his game over the past month or so. I think his ERA is under 2 since the start of August. And, we saw him throw 99.5 in Kansas City. This is a guy who was topping out at 93 like 3 years ago when he was in Erie. His velo has just continued to tick up, playing up out of the pin. The changeup has always been a really good pitch, and he doesn't have to spin it as much out of the pin. So that's, I think why he's having success. But yeah, like the mentality thing is real too. Like, his post game comments were kind of like, I wasn't afraid of failure. It was like it was just a tunnel from me to the catcher. It was like, I think that's what I want to hear from a guy pitching in
Yeah.
those spots. Yeah.
And to make Sunday even more perfect, the guy who blows the save on Saturday comes in and shuts the door down, in Jason Foley. So like another instance of confidence and being able to bounce back and all those cliches, like that's exactly what we saw there. And we've probably gone too long without mentioning this. That's some amazing defense over there in Baltimore, man. Just amazing defense. I mentioned the Sweeney play, Parker Meadows with their home run robbery today, and anyone who was watching it on TV, you see like how high the camera goes.
The camera
Like,
made you think that thing was long gone.
there's not that many times I can ever remember the camera going that high to get the view and it not being out of the park,
Yeah.
you know? and then Torque had some really nice plays as
Scoots.
well. And then we
Chase
go
Young with a couple nice
Jace
plays.
Young, and we'll go back to Kansas City with Torque with that dive on the line drive. I mean, Riley Green throwing out a guy at home, like played
How
that
many
hot perfect.
season-changing plays could there be in one game? In 2 games. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm running out of like headspace to try to remember them all. You know what I mean? And it's just it's just remarkable. It's just remarkable what we're watching. And it's honestly one of those things you don't want to think about this, but let's just say something weird happens. They don't make the postseason. This was really special to watch. You know what I mean? Like for me, like this week was a special week, one of the more special weeks in recent memory of Detroit Tigers baseball, and it sets them up for a possibility to achieve even more. And like it's unbelievable, but it's the most believable thing because everything that we thought was BS about what we were told, what was said, is playing out. So credit where credit is due. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? The makeup, front office on down, coaching, AJ moves, everything is done in an advantageous way, and it like I said, it's remarkable to see. Uh, I did want to go back to Sweeney for 1 second. Like that play, I can't imagine how bad that hurt to get the knee to the ribs or stomach or wherever he technically had made contact. And then the presence of mind to get the ball in right away. Jackson Holiday didn't look like I mean, didn't
Looked like a
really,
rookie out there.
yeah, he looked like a rookie out there. Which, by the way, MLB, stop saying his hometown's Austin. He spent all of his teenage years in Stillwater. His family still lives in Stillwater. He's from Stillwater. So, side note. Uh, you wrote about him this week, Cody, and he has only gotten more fascinating the more I watch him because we go back to the trade deadline. All right, you got a guy who's kind of, you know, two really smart organizations were willing to part ways with
Yeah.
him, the New York Yankees and the Los Angeles Dodgers. And not even in like groundbreaking moves, you know what I mean? So you kind of think, all right, maybe he's a guy, maybe he's another Ryan Kreidler, who knows, and he's been thrust into a position because of the Javier injury to be a literal everyday shortstop and in the middle of a playoff push. If we were to ask Scott Harris, like in your wildest dreams, would you have anticipated this kind of role and this kind of success, the highs with it, for Sweeney? Like, there's no way. There's no way. So like you wrote about him this week, Cody, and he's a fascinating guy who like just you would have thought that he's been on this team all year with the way he kind of meshes in with the guys and the kind of like and being just a little bit naive in a good way about what's going on with this major league team.
Yeah, I mean, he's played well enough to the point that it makes you ask, like, okay, how good is this guy actually? Is he a dude who's having, a really nice month and doing some cool things, coming up in some big moments, and we're never really going to hear from him again? Or is this guy going to be a major contributor on next year's team? Or could he be a contributor years into the future? I mean, could this be your shortstop? I don't know the answer to that question. I think it's important to remember, yeah, the Dodgers and Yankees did give up on him. You look at the numbers, which we're still dealing with 100 plate appearances, a little bit of a small sample, but the chase rate's kind of high, 31%. The whiff rate's kind of high, 30%. The strikeout rate's a little high. He's not really drawing walks. Those things don't bode well overall, but he has played some nice defense. He is grading out well in the field, at the plate. You don't love the profile, but a 247 average and a 719 OPS, you'll take that over pretty much anyone else the Tigers have tried at shortstop in a long time, even pre-Javi Baez. So really, really interesting. I'm sure Scott, would say like, I mean, he said the day they traded for him what they liked about him. And to me, yeah, it came off as like, okay, he's probably another Ryan Kreidler, Zach Shore, who like every organization kind of has that utility infielder that can get up in the big leagues. Maybe he plays a couple positions. right now Trey Sweeney is looking like he can be something more than that. He's not a perfect player. He's not a fully polished player. I think his bat's going to continue to be tested, especially if he's playing like every day into next season. But gosh, I mean, hard not to like what we've seen from him and just the calmness he plays with. I don't think can be taken for granted either. Um, got nothing but good things really to say about Trey Sweeney.
In the clubhouse, does he seem like pretty seamless in there and how, like talk about your world being turned around. You're living in Oklahoma City, you're trying to get to the majors with, a team that's top of, World Series contention. You get traded. Obviously, you always know that's a possibility if you're in the minor leagues, but like it's not like it gets talked about, you know what I mean? And you go to Toledo and now you're in downtown Detroit playing all these games. Like I would have to assume the makeup's got to be pretty good there too.
Yeah, I tried to talk with Trey about that, hoping you'd get some good stuff, and he's just so calm. He's just like, yeah, it's fine, not really that crazy. You just play baseball every day, and which kind of makes sense. There's not that much time to worry about like how stressed you are or where you are because you're just going up to the yard and playing, and then you're doing it again the next day. Like there's some level of truth to that. But he's a quiet guy, and it is interesting to think like, okay, what is this actually like for him? Because as much as this is a young team, guys in theory he should gel with, they've all played together, most of them for years at various stops in the minor leagues. Like he's kind of the only truly new guy around. Um, and so that must be a little interesting. But if there's a way to bond and gain respect from your teammates, it's, coming up in big spots and making plays like the one he made Saturday. And also, I think we got to put the should the Tigers have traded Jack Flaherty argument to rest for good because Trey Sweeney is worth 1.0 WAR on Baseball Reference. Jack Flaherty has been worth zero point 0.7 with the Dodgers. So literally on paper, the Tigers have already won this trade, no matter what happens in the career of Tyron Lorenzo, which is baffling.
Yeah. I mean, nobody would have predicted that. And there's like that getting that little shallow fly ball. That's just pure baseball instinct, obviously, because like the infield's in,
It was a
and
play he
they're
messed up just a few nights ago in Kansas
yeah.
City.
Well, even that, like you don't even in that situation, you don't even have time to try to like hear if the outfielder called you off. You know what I mean? It's just like I just have to get to this ball. Like there's not really, and then again, the presence of mind to get it in there quick, like I said. I mean, that's as gutsy as it goes, and that'd be another. Obviously it's part of the
That's
Bob
what
Brisky thing, but that's going to
that's
be
what
a
strikes me
remembered
about it.
play. Yeah.
The fearlessness to go back like that after starting on the infield grass. So it wasn't like he's at his normal position. He's able to kind of feel things out, listen for the outfielder. I mean, he's basically on a dead sprint the whole time. And also credit to Riley Green for the presence of mind to get down. It could have been a nasty, nasty collision because both those guys were going all the way. But it's just to even be wired to go back on a ball like that with that level of fearlessness is pretty rare, pretty special. Maybe not the smartest thing in the world, but
I'm
with the game on the line and in a sense, maybe the season on the line, man, you got to respect it.
gonna say this. This might be controversial, but if Derek Jeter did that, we would be seeing that highlight for 25 years. You know what I
Oh, yeah.
mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like it would be in the like in the loading montage of MLB The Show. Like it's just
Derek Jeter probably wouldn't have got there because his range sucked. So.
Oh man, I like Derek Jeter. Obviously, who doesn't like Derek Jeter? But I'm also here for some like Derek Jeter realisms, just in general. If anybody wants to throw them my way on X, I'm always there for them. All right, let's go to Kerry Carpenter. 2 home runs today. He does not qualify for like percentage leaders based on the amount of time he missed, but he would be right up there if he did qualify slugging percentage that is. 2 home runs today. You try to come up with more ways to talk about Kerry Carpenter. One of them to me is just like I don't think I have a full grasp of his ceiling, Cody. Like I just like I don't every time I think, all right, well, he's just a pretty good player. He's a pretty good player. He has moments like these in a game like this, and I'm like, is there could be more in there. There absolutely could be more in there, and you keep in mind the injury and the fact that the one glaring hole in his game is that he doesn't hit left-handed pitching, and that's sort of like a two-way sentence. He doesn't hit it. He also doesn't hit it because he doesn't get that many at bats. So I went and looked it up. I went and looked it up. He's got 28 at bats against left-handed pitching. He has 3 hits in those 28 at
Yeah.
bats. Uh, he got, I mentioned earlier, he got pinch hit for today, which is obviously, it's just a weird thing to think about getting pinch hit for when you hit 2 home runs on a day. But is that really the only thing? Is that like is there? Do you think there's a scenario where he becomes closer to, I don't want to say average, but a, a less than mediocre? Because if he was less than mediocre at hitting left-handed pitching, then he's batting at basically as much as Colt Keith essentially
Right.
against lefties. So is that in his bag, or should we just appreciate that he's this kind of righty killer, athletic outfielder and on the base pass guy? Because to me, I want to think that there's more there, that he's not reached his ceiling.
I feel like we've debated this exact thing all year. I'm still not sure the exact answer. Let's look at MLB players with more than 47 at bats this season. There are two with a higher slugging percentage than Kerry Carpenter. Their names are Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani. So that's
Pretty
pretty
good.
incredible. He's above Bobby Witt, Kyle Tucker, Juan Soto, Yordan Alvarez, name who you want. He's above them all. Pretty remarkable. I remain on the like Carey should get more of an opportunity against left-handers train. I don't think at this point in the season and in these scenarios probably not. So I don't know. Maybe if AJ would have hit Carey against lefties more, the Tigers like would have lost another game or two and wouldn't be in it right now. So maybe don't listen to me, but no, I think you just got to see. I think he's shown so much as a hitter. I would like to see a little more, but then you look at like, okay, 3 for 28. That's a clear limitation in his game. But if he's going to be one of the top hitters in the world against right-handed pitching, that's still pretty good. 17 homers in 82 games. So, can he be a 35 homer guy primarily just against right-handed pitching? It makes you want to find out. I don't quite know that answer, but I mean, I think his ceiling is a 25, 30 homer guy, one of the best hitters in the world against righties, and anything after that is just a bonus.
Yeah, and you can do a lot of things with that kind of bat in your lineup, and really reassuring. And by the way, we'll shout out Spencer Torkelson for a monster shot of a home run. Uh, I chuckled when during the call, and my wife looks at me and is like, "Why are you laughing?" I was like, "Well, because anytime Spencer Torkelson does something good, I enjoy it, obviously, but it also further complicates the issue. That's a thing for another day. The thing for another day." But I just chuckle, and he has proven valuable, through this run for sure.
The
There's
defense really has been better. It's been noticeably better.
Yeah, and everything affects everything. That's a credit to him on that. Um, all right, let's go into the further evaluation of your question about, like, if they get in, could they win? Uh, there's none of those teams that are leading divisions or going to win divisions are looking forward to, if they're being honest, the possibility of going up against potentially Skubal, depending on some timeline stuff there, or AJ Hinch. They might even actually prefer to Skubal pitch like game 1, so that's one less day that AJ Hinch just bullpen days them to death. You know what I mean? Because you got AJ Hinch, you got an ace potentially. You have a young, hot hitting lineup and tremendous defense, especially in the outfield. Uh, there's nobody that's going to feel. No, the Tigers will not be overlooked. I'll phrase it like that. They will not be overlooked should they make the postseason by whomever they play, and for good reason. They've earned that. So again, we're not getting ahead of ourselves here. but does a 3 game best 2 out of 3 setup kind of favor the way the Tigers operate? I kind of think it does, Cody. That's all. Just like their
Yeah, I
mode,
think
I
I
kind of
think
does.
so. Yeah, so as it stands, Tarek Skubal would be lined up to start game 162 against the White Sox. It'd be cool if you could have already clinched and maybe push him, but I don't know. Now the second wild card is in play, so it's going to be hard to see a scenario in which Skubal does not pitch that game. It's a little bit of a bummer because you would love him on full rest, fully available, game on of the playoffs. You're going to be favored to win that game. Not a guarantee, but you're going to be favored. So that's one. And then all you got to do is luck or AJ Hinch
Ratchet
magic
away,
your
yeah.
way into game two, which we've seen the Tigers do that day in and day out a lot lately. Not having Skubal in that setting, if he were to pitch, it'd be probably game three on short rest. That hurts you a little bit, but yeah, like this isn't new. The Tigers have been playing and managing these games like playoff games for 2 months now. The Astros, if that's who they end up playing, they could get the second wild card, and this is they go play the Orioles, who they've just beat the hell out of. Like, yeah, they can do it. The Astros scare me a little bit. Like Alvarez and Tucker are hit back to back in their lineup. Those are two guys you literally can't match up against. They destroy righties. They're almost just as good against lefties. Most teams you play, you're going to not match up with them as well on paper in terms of just like the thump in your offense. That's still a concern, but the Tigers pitching right now, I think gives them a very legitimate chance to hang with anyone. I've heard the comparison before, like, are they like last year's Diamondbacks? And I never really liked that because Diamondbacks were really good last year. I mean, this is a team that was in first place at the end of June and then got really cold and then turned it on again. So people acted like they came from nowhere. That wasn't entirely true. I think Corbin Carroll probably better than anyone on the Tigers, maybe except Riley Green. Ketel Marte, the Tigers don't have a guy like that. They don't really have a Christian Walk. Like, if you just actually look at that lineup, I think it's better than the Tigers lineup. But you see the way these guys have pitched. They're not as fast as the Diamondbacks, but they do, they run the bases really well. In the second half of the year, they have played pretty top-notch defense. There are some similarities there that you can't deny. Those D-backs won 84 games in the regular season. Looks like the Tigers are going to win more than that. So I don't think it's a perfect comparison, but there are some similarities to kind of serve as a reminder that, like, no, the Tigers, weird stuff happens in the postseason. At this point, I'm not putting anything past the Detroit Tigers.
So with this road stand that, wrapping up, the Tigers finished the season 43-38 on the road. Uh they're not going to be afraid to go anywhere and play anybody. You know what I mean? Like that's we would have assumed, we would have thought that coming into this week. Real tangible evidence of that after going 5-1 on the road trip. So as of now, this is just after 5 o'clock Eastern. The Tigers are in the playoffs. Like I said, they have an identical record to the Kansas City Royals, 82-74. The Twins, they're having their second game of the doubleheader right going on right now, so they're a half game back technically. Seattle only 2 games back.
Mariners are alive. Don't count out the Imps. Did
They
they
are
lose to the
at
Rangers? Did they drop
they
it?
are they are at they're 88-76 as of this minute. Uh, they're at Houston for 3 games, and then they host Oakland for 3 games to close out the year. Obviously, Houston is Houston.
Oh, but they blew a lead to the Rangers. That's a tough loss in
Mm,
this moment where everything matters.
yeah,
They were leading the
and
game.
and but they get Oakland for 3 at home. So there's your White
Oakland's not
Sox.
bad. Oakland's
Yeah,
not.
no,
Oakland
it's you.
played
No, you're
really
right. You're
well in the
right.
second half.
You're right.
Crazy.
You're right.
Not a
But
gimme.
no, you're right there. And the Rays, by the way, I mean, they're not going to lay down. They're 78-78. This is not going to be some like, all right, congrats on a great road trip, Tigers. Here's a couple more wins, and we'll see you this weekend.
That's worth pointing out too. No one's really talking about the Rays series, even going back to last week. There's so much focus on the Royals and Orioles. Like the way this team is playing, it's tough to envision them just getting like swept by Tampa. But yeah, these next three games matter just as much as the next three against the White Sox.
Remarkable. Just absolutely remarkable. And it's been fun to kind of do this along the way, increasing our output a little bit. We still got more things planned for everybody, so be sure to follow Cody at Cody Stavenhagen. I'm at Kieran_Steckley, pod page at Turn Corner Pod for all the analysis and updates and just excitement around this team. Cody, I'm just gonna say this once. Last season, he did cover a World Series winner. It wasn't the Tigers, it was the Rangers during the postseason, but it still counted. So we'll see if Cody can go back to back here. Anything else, Cody, before we jet out?
No, no, you know, we'll talk again soon.
We will talk again soon. So I want to thank everybody for following us on the social medias, including TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, and links to our Venmo tip jar and merch store, and also ways to engage with us. We enjoy it a lot. It's a great time to be around the Tigers. I know I speak for Cody and I in that regard. So for Cody Stavenhagen, I'm Kieran Steckley. Everybody have a great week.